wild rose hips. And yeah, unfortunately they're quite gnarly and thorny. So this is what you're looking for. Right, so for the cooking part, you're going to need, well, once it's cooked, you're going to need one of these muslins. I've actually bought one that's especially for jamming and, you know, all that sort of thing. Muslin cloth for cooking. There you go. It's a double thickness, really good quality. So that's what you want. And you're going to want a spoon, which I need to wash mine because I've used it to make a different syrup. And some big pots, relevant to the size of how many rose hips you've got. Obviously I've got a lot here, so I've got a big pot, and you might need another pot this size if you're going to be boiling your jars to sterilize them. I've got a steam sterilizer that's meant for baby bottles, so I'm going to be using that, so I don't need an extra pan, but I have got a huge pan that I normally boil jars in. So, and then you're going to need some bottles or jars, or jam jars will do it if you sterilize them, for putting your syrup in once it's done, like so. I've got, this is a bottle here, not a jar. So that one's got some hawthorn berry with ginger and cinnamon and nutmeg, because hawthorn's a good heart regulator, so it's not the tastiest of syrup like the rose hip, but it does have a purpose. And then there's some blackberry cordial that my daughter made before she left. So yeah, some bottles, jars, anything like that. Yeah, your pans, a spoon, maybe a knife. You might need a sharp knife. And your muslin, oh, some sugar and water and your rose hips. So that's all you're going to need once you've foraged and picked all your rose hips. Okay. Right, once you've picked all your rose hips, sorry, they're my dried apples. Once you've picked your rose hips, you want to, some of them are going to have ends like this. That would have been the rose. That would have been the flower there. So you want to make sure you pick all those off, and have a little bucket for your waste. Pick these little ends off, like that, until they just look clean like that. Some of them will be quite fuzzy, like this, on the ends. So just, if you just rub them, the fuzz comes off. And then pick the little green stumps off. So yeah, you want to get rid of all these flowers. See, that would have been the rose there at one point. So basically that's all you have to do to process them, is get all those flowers off, pick off your green stalks, and then have a bowl for your picked ones and a bowl for all your bits. Ideally, you want them when they've become slightly translucent. Can you see how they're soft? Look, and the inside is all gooey. You don't want them gone too far. Kind of like these. That's a bit, actually that one looks alright, to be fair. That one might be okay. But when they've gone a bit too far, you know, you don't want them too, like that for instance. You can see the difference in colour. That's going bad, that's too ripe. You can leave them to have a frost before you pick them, which does ripen them. But you can always tell, because if you sniff that, it will just smell so tasty you'll want to eat it. And if you sniff one that's too far gone, this one, or even this one, you can see it's not the right colour, look. It will have a almost alcohol-y smell, you know, unpleasant, like you don't want to eat it type of smell. So yeah, have to excuse the noise, that's my little grandson playing in the living room. So yeah, pick all your stumps off, and then yeah, get them into a bowl, and then we wash them. To wash them, I just fill up a bowl, and I really give them a good old shaking, you know, and that gets the last of these hairy bits on the ends off. So really give them a good pummeling like that, and then we're just going to, hang on a sec, we've got a lot of stuff up here. We've got conkers for the squirrels and a lot of rose hips, and then just take them out, and then I give them an extra under the cap, make sure the bits are off. And once you're satisfied that there's no bits on there, yeah, go ahead, stick them in. You can see, look, hang on a sec, I'll show you in the water. Everything that's, I'm going to drain that on a bowl just to get all the bits out. And if we look in that water, you can see all the bits that have come off from those hairy tops. So once you've given them a wash, do that several times until there's nothing coming out. You don't want all those bits. So wash them through, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. I've washed mine several times. And then whatever's drained through in the bowl, so there's nothing in there. And then put them all in a big bowl. And depending on how much rose hips you want and how many helpers you've got to forage, that's it. That's them ready, prepared. And next we'll do the cooking. Right, once you've weighed out the amount you want, I've got £2 in here, or just over £2, and I've got 2 litres of water. So £2 in weight and 2 litres of water. We don't put any sugar yet, we just boil these down, and then we have to strain them in the muslin. I forgot to say you might need a wooden spoon. So yeah, what I've done is, because they do ripen better after a frost, I put mine in the freezer. So what I've done is swapped the bag I've just done and taken a £2 bag out the freezer, which have been in there for a little while. So, and these are much softer. So yeah, you can go ahead and freeze yours if you want to, but bring them to the boil, and then if they're not soft, you may have to chop them a bit, or you can put them in the food processor to chop them, or you can just smash them up with a potato masher once they're boiled down and got a bit softer. That's what I do, I just mash them up with a potato masher, so it makes it easier. So yeah, boil up your rose hips and smash them about a bit so they break up, and yeah, just give them a good boil for 5 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever. Don't have to boil them for long, just bring them to the boil and smash them up, you know, smash them about. Okay, I thought I'd show you the inside of one of these rose hips. They're full of seeds and hairy stuff. Can you see that hairy stuff? When we were kids, we used to use that as itching powder, but that is an irritant, which is why we have to strain them through the muslin to make sure we don't have any of that. You see the hairy stuff on those seeds? So we have to sieve out not only the seeds, but all this hairy stuff, which is quite itchy. So yeah, we used to, I don't know if anyone my age will remember using this as itching powder, kids throwing it at each other at school. But yeah, that's what we did when we were kids anyway. So yeah, that's what they would look like inside, but that's quite a hard one, so it's not, you know, squishy and not very ripe. So a more ripe one, they look soft and gooey inside. That's what they're like when they're ripe, and when they're not ripe, you know, they're quite hard, look. But they've still got the hair and the seeds, so you have to, you know, give them a good straining in a proper muslin. What I actually meant to say was bring it to the boil and simmer it for 5 minutes, not boil it for 5 minutes, simmer it. And just bring it to the boil. I'll give them one a good old, ooh, steaming up there. Give them one a good old scrunch with the potato masher. Mine were quite soft, so you see they break up, look. Especially if they're nice and ripe. So yeah, give them a good, some of them are still whole, look. Give them a good pummel and a good stir, bring it to the boil, and then simmer for 5 minutes. Once you've cooked your rose hips, put your muslin in a colander, you know, sieve colander thing like that, and then just drain all the juice through and keep doing that. Just keep moving it around, and eventually all the juice will drip through and all you'll be left with is the pulp. So keep doing that, and then every time all your juice is gone, tip it into a separate bowl and just keep repeating that process. So there's still some juice in this one. I could have left it a bit longer really. So yeah, you need to leave it to sit a good while to drain through. Give it a little scrapey scrape while you're waiting. That's That's the next stage. So once you've cooked it, maybe let it cool down a bit so you can squeeze your bag at the end, depending what you want to do. So yeah, I'm just going to keep, it'll take about, I don't know, a good 10-15 minutes for it to all drain through that muslin. So be patient, take your time and wait till all the liquid's gone. Your pulp should be quite dry at the end of it, drier than this one to be fair, that's got liquid draining, but yeah, so just keep going like that until you're finished. I'm doing mine in batches because I've still got some more in there, look, to drain off. So yeah, keep stirring it through until there's no liquid left. See you in about 15 minutes. Right, once you get to the end of that stage, you see it's kind of dry. I'm going to leave that to soak a bit longer, or to drain a bit longer, and then we'll get some more in the bottom. And then once you've done that, I poured it into this pan. But before I go ahead and cook it with the sugar, I'm going to take another muslin and put it in a colander and strain it one more time into that big bowl, and then put it back in the pan. And each time I do a straining, I rinse everything out so there's no bits, left behind on your pan. So I'm going to, once I've re-strained that, I'll wash the pan, and then I'll put what's strained through here into here back in the pan, and then we're going to cook it with the sugar. So there should be a little bit more straining in the bottom of that bowl. I don't know if you can see the liquid down there. So we're just waiting for that bit, and then we'll pour it all through this muslin. Go ahead and pour that in. As you can see, it drains away really quickly. There shouldn't really be too much of anything in there. I like to do it just in case there's a little bit of sediment that sometimes escapes, especially when you make a mess like me. So I think some of it might have leaked through, so just to give it that extra. There you go, look at all that sediment there. There you go. So that's drained through and done. You can do that several times if you wish. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, and if you find that once you've boiled your fruits down, that you've got less water than you need, you can pour some extra boiling water in the top of this, stir it all around, and then let it drain through again to make up your 2 litres if you lose some with the steam. So there you go, that's done another time. I don't think we need to go ahead and do it a 3rd time. It depends what you're making. The same applies for any syrup or, cordials. Right, so that's done. I'm going to pour that back in the pan, and then we'll get started on the next step. And the next stage, excuse me, is really simple. Take your sugar. It depends how much sugar you add, depends on one, taste, because some people like it really, really sugary. And the other thing is how syrupy you want it. So it's recommended from the recipe I had. Hang on a minute, let's get a spoon. From the recipe I had, it was meant to be, what was it now? I think it was, hang on a second, let me see a spoon. I think it was meant to be, £2 for every 2 litres of water. I'm going to have to wash this spoon. Hang on a sec, my precious spoon. Yeah, I've done £2 in here, so, and I've got 2 litres, that's £1 a litre, and what I'll do is I'll taste it once it's all dissolved and see how I feel about it, because I don't like it too sickly. I like a little bit of tartness to it. So, and then while you're doing this, you can go ahead and boil your jars, or if you're using a steam sterilizer, you can steam sterilise your jars a bit later, because it's quicker. It only takes 2 minutes, and you want them nice and hot when you put your syrup in, because if it's not nice and hot, your jars won't seal. So if you get your jars nice and hot, and then while your syrup's hot, you pour them in the jars and seal them, it'll create a vacuum as it cools down. So but very important you heat your jars even if they're pre-sterilised, because you don't want to put hot liquid in a cold jar, it might crack. So even if your jars are pre-sterilised, do warm them up. And that's it really. We're just going to now bring it to the boil, let it simmer for 5 minutes again, and yes, sterilise our jars. So once I've mixed it and tasted it and seen if I'll let you know if I add more sugar. But you could, you can leave it at that. You can add more, you can even add a little bit less. My daughter likes to add a lot less because she gives it to the kids. And if you're going to use it up within a reasonable amount of time and just keep it in the fridge, then yeah, if you're going to use it, you don't need so much sugar. But if you want to store it for like 3 or 4 months or whatever, then you need a little bit more sugar. So, and it is, like I say, to taste. I like that little hit of tartness you get. So I don't like it too sickly. I could have put a lot more sugar in there, but we'll see how that goes and see what it's like. Yeah, while this is heating up and coming to the boil, don't forget to sterilise your muslins as well. Soak them in some boiling water before and after use. And what else? If you want to make any slight alterations to the flavour, you can put a little slice of lemon. You might want a bit of ginger or some cinnamon. So you can add these things pre the sugar usually, because you don't want bits. But if you're using it up straight away again, you could add it at this stage and just put the bit of ginger in there to give it a bit of flavour, to add to the flavour of the rosehip. I don't like to put anything in. I love rosehip just as it is, but I have made it for other people with ginger, cinnamon, depending on what people want. So I don't mind it with a bit of cinnamon, but at the same time, rosehips only come once a year, so you can flavour things with cinnamon anytime. The actual flavour of rosehip syrup is so unique and such an amazing taste that I don't like to add anything to it really. I prefer it just as it is. So yeah, I know my daughter likes it with a bit of ginger and cinnamon and stuff in it, so if you want to add those things, you can experiment with flavourings. We're just waiting for it to come to the boil now, shouldn't be too long. And then we'll bottle it up. I'll show you how we jar it up. You can get where are they? Some cute, you can get little bottles like this and then put a little label on it with rosehip syrup, put a little ribbon on it and give them as Christmas gifts. Food is always a good gift at Christmas. I was going to give people some of my this one, I made some pickled beetroots. I've got a few jars of these, so I thought that with a little ribbon round it and a little tag saying what it is and when it was made and when it'll be ready. So yeah, you can always get some nice little jars or nice little bottles and put a ribbon and a label on. Give them away as gifts. I like to give people rosehip syrup for Christmas, and a lot of my friends really like to receive rosehip syrup because they don't like to go through the long process of making it and would rather I did it. So but they love the stuff. So yeah, those are some options for you. Now we're just going to bring it to the boil. Like I say, get your jars and bottles sterilised, ready for the next step. You can see as well now how dry. It's pretty dry, look. Not really any moisture in there. Feels quite dry. So that's what it looks like once you've drained all your juice out, and then just get rid of that. We don't need that. So, and yeah, thoroughly wash and sterilise your muslins. That's bubbling away, so I've actually turned mine off because by the time my electric stove turns down and comes to a stop, it would have been simmering for a few minutes. So you really need to bring it to the boil to bubble like that. I did put a lid on mine for a couple of minutes, and I've got my jars steaming in the steriliser right now. So just let that come off the boil. Oh, it smells so good. It looks very golden as well. You can't really see. You'll be able to see once it goes in the jars the colour. Absolutely gorgeous. Right, so the bubbles are slowing down already. Yeah. So if you've got an electric cooker, just turn it to off because the ring takes a few minutes. By then it will be simmered enough. It's more getting it to the boil for a minute or two. So yeah, it's been boiling for a minute at least, not two. Okay, so I've got my jars sterilised. I've also sterilised a little jug, and I'm simply just going to scoop the rosehip Look at that lovely colour. And fill up the jars. They're nice and hot, so use an oven glove to get your jars out of your pan, because you want them to be really hot. You don't want to let them cool down. So, and yeah, you definitely don't want to touch boiling jars. Burn your fingers. So, just do that. And then, oh, yeah, I've left enough space. Leave a little gap. I should have left a slightly bigger gap actually at the top, so that once you put your lid on, it should suck in as it cools down. What I'll do is go around and tighten them off afterwards. So leave them on loosely to start with. Maybe fill the others up, and then you can, oops, tighten them up afterwards. A bit of a mess there, I just spilt some. That's what we get for trying to film. And film at the same time. So yeah, just take a jug or whatever, fill up your jars, or I'll sterilise some of these big bottles. So, and these lovely ones with the cork. Thank you, Ollie, for the bottles. So yeah, my friend gave me them. Rosehip. Nice bottles. I don't know what they're from. Some alcohol, I suppose. I don't drink, so I don't know. But yeah, there's quite a lot here. So yeah, just keep filling up, putting your lids on, and eventually, if you leave them to leave a gap like that, I'd say. Then get your lid on, and then you can go around and tighten your lids afterwards. And after about, I don't know, depends how long they take to cool down on the temperature of your room, but I'd say after about half an hour you'll hear they'll go pop, and it will suck the lid in, and you'll have that vacuum, so that'll be sealed. And that's how it's done. Rosehip syrup. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you go away and make yourself some. It is quite a long process, but it is truly worth it. Truly worth it. I want a quick history on the rosehip syrup. In the World War, people volunteered to collect the rose hips and forage them from the wayside, and they were sent to community centres all over the country, and then taken to, I suppose, factories where they process sugar and syrup, and made into rosehip syrup and given out to all the children of Britain in war times, because it's so rich in vitamin C. So yeah, it's got other vitamins in as well. I can't remember but for every, I know you have to eat a whole lot more oranges per weight than rose hips to get the equivalent vitamin C. So it really is really good for you. It's my winter tonic. I shall go and carry on jarring mine up, and thanks for watching. See you again soon. A bit unusual from what I normally do, but I thought, why not show you guys how I make my rosehip syrup? So there you go. That's it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you all soon with some beading. Finally. Yeah, my house guests are gone, and the squirrels are now up in the shed, one step closer to freedom. So yeah, I shall be back to some beading soon. Thanks, guys. Bye. You really can't truly appreciate the colour until you sit it on the windowsill and let the sun shine through it. And it's like, it's just golden nectar. Yes. Right, well, I've already said my goodbyes, so goodbye again. I just wanted to show you it all bottled up and finished. So yeah, it's a bit of a messy process, but well worth it. Well worth it. So yeah, enjoy.